introduction because it'll be difficult to live up to it. But thank you for the privilege of sharing with those there online and any who are receiving the recording. And certainly I'll be very happy to, if anyone wanted copies of those articles, they could be more than happy to share them with folk. There are over 225 now. Each one takes less than 5 minutes. But it's just to get us thinking. And I suppose in a way, one of my, you indicated I love sport. I played it from a young age. And I thank my parents for that just in the biblical sense that we should teach young people to learn at a young age, as it says in Ecclesiastes 12. So we, teach sport and it becomes easier as a result. And but what I have found over the years, latterly, maybe I'm becoming a grumpy old man, but I've been losing my love for sport a little bit, partly because the way it is portrayed, partly by the way it is run, and mostly I think from, as he indicated, as a sports person, as a professional and an educator, I'm just concerned that we are taking into schools what the professional sport is doing. And I don't think that is correct. And also from a Christian point of view, we're taking the world's values instead of the Christ values. So in a way, I'll start this, and I'll touch on some of those things you alluded to in your kind introduction, but I'd start with just a very simple question, which may be very obvious, but we may need to ask it. Why do we do sport at school? And secondly, do we do sport well? Those are, I think, the initial starting point. And if you probably say, well, it's obvious to win. That's why we do sport at school. And I would say, well, no, that's not why we do sport at school. It is an integral part of education. That is why it's there, or it should be, every afternoon as part of the curriculum. It's not and I hate it when people talk about the extracurricular, because that is implying that it's, if you like it, you can have it, but it's a bit of an extra. It's co-curricular. It is integral to the education. And we have got such wonderful opportunities to speak into people's lives through sport. So that's the reason why I would say why we do sport at school is I call it the school of sport. We do sport at school for the same reason we do academic study at school, to learn. That is why we're doing sport. And it's just as with academic study, you're learning about the subject, but to relate it to the world and to life and to Christ. So in sport, that is the same thing. It's not just about coaching skills or tactics or making better players, but making better people. If you take the line of the All Blacks mantra, which I believe wholeheartedly. But it's the second aspect is, do we do sport well? Do we do our educating of sport well? And I think we get the balance wrong, in that I often say, I don't want Zimbabwe to do well at sport. That might be good to your ears. And maybe we were lucky yesterday in the cricket against you guys with the rain coming, but we'll leave that aside. But I don't want Zimbabwe to do well in sport. I want us to do sport well in Zimbabwe. Or take it to your school. I don't want your school to do sport well, to do well in sport. I want your school to do sport well. And if you do sport well, then you will do well in sport. You will succeed, whatever that means, and we'll cover that. So it's really taking it from those lines that I think we have to do it. I want us to do sport well. And for us as Christians, I want us to do sport the way Christ would want us to do it in school, and to develop it in that regard. And one of the, we might also start as the outset, is sport biblical? And well, okay, we can. Some would say, well, David served in the court of Saul, so and that was tennis, but that's a weak joke at this stage of the day. But it's we do know that Paul used sporting images, and from the athletics and the boxing from the old days. So yeah, there we may not have seen any competitions, but he learned from sport and took biblical spiritual principles from sport. And so I think we've got every right. God wants us to grow and to develop, and therefore we need to. We've got that privilege of, yeah, we've got permission to do sport, and the more we can do it, the better, I think, at the school. But we've got to do it right. And one of the areas I want to maybe just put up one. I hope this comes up. If I can you see that? Is that up? Yeah. And I just want to take it from this point. Eating is necessary. I think you'd agree. I've got a biscuit here beside me in case I get hungry during this, but then you'll see me eat. But eating is necessary. Obviously, it helps you to survive. It helps you to grow. No real difficulty in that. But eating is necessary, but it must be the right food that we eat, because otherwise, we're not still on milk as adults. We're growing. We go through the different stages. And some of us may be at that stage now and maybe wanting that stage. But we're going at the different stages where there's a stage for us to go. It must be the right amount. We can't have too much or too little. You're not going to survive on too little, but you're going to go overboard with too much. And it can lead to either reaching that stage or that stage. And I think I'll move on quickly from those pictures. It must be the right balance in terms of vitamins, proteins, carbohydrates, and all the rest of it that you'll know better than I do. But for eating, yeah, it's not just about eat anything you like, but it's in the right balance. You can eat a lot if it's the right stuff. It's about the right pace. You're not forcing it in everything at once, but it needs to go eat at the right pace. Otherwise, you get indigestion. For the right reason. I'm not sure that some of those reasons there that you might see pictured will be the right reason. But for fitness and for our health, it's important and necessary. It's got to be at the right time. We've got to have if you're eating at the wrong time, we're going to suffer indigestion, or it won't have any real benefit. So the overriding thing is it must be healthy, because if not, then the following things, those things result. I don't need to go into that. I'm not too interested in that. But we often speak about eating disorders, and if we don't do those things correctly, then we will be saying that folk are liable to eating disorders. What I would want to suggest, though, is that we can have competing disorders as well. Just as eating disorders come, so competing disorders can follow. Eating is necessary, and for the exact same reason, competing is necessary. It helps you survive, just as food does, and it helps you to survive in those different areas. It helps you to learn how to win and to lose, to face pressure, handle decisions. Those are real reasons why we're doing sport at school and playing fixtures at school. It overcomes boredom and it provides surprises. And equally, at the same time, it helps you to grow. So yes, within sport, competition is important. For those reasons, it must be the right level. Again, I think just as with eating, we push people too quickly, too soon. I believe very much in the long-term player development. And I think we're pushing people. And now you're getting national teams at under 6 level for underwater cooking. I don't know, whatever it will be, but it's this pressure to start folk earlier and earlier. No, there's a time and a place, and I think we push everyone too quickly, not least because then they have burnout, and that's a competing disorder. Just as with food, the right amount. We've got to have the right amount of competition, and sometimes we can have far too much. Sometimes it's got to be the right balance, so that it's we're not stuffing ourselves fully with it. There needs to be the right balance between practice and fixtures. There needs to be the right pace, so we don't rush, push. It's got to be the right reason that we're doing it, not for the school's reputation. And in fact, I had the privilege, I think about 8 years ago, speaking at the Sahisa Heads Conference, where I said that the people are more concerned, heads in particular, about the school's reputation than the child's development, the child's education, and the country's development. We don't do sport for our school's reputation or for our reputation as coaches. It's got to be for the right reason, and it's got to be at the right time. Not just in the time of day, but in the time of their life, their development, and so on. So it's the same way. It must be healthy. If not, if we push sport, the whole competition, then I believe those are the things that will result as well. And not least, one of the things that I feel most strongly about is here in Zimbabwe, where we are proud of, we produce some world-class sportsmen and athletes, whether the Nick Price, the Flower brothers, Peter and Glovu, the Beast, who you borrowed or used or whatever, you can take it as you wish. But we're saying we've done really well. Small country, small numbers, but we compete on the national scale. Yeah, we've made it to the World Cup. But I would say we haven't done well because the vast majority of our children give up sport when they leave school. And the point is, we say that education is for life. That means, and we also say sport is integral to education. Well, that means sport is for life. But what we are doing is that most of the folk, because of the way we are doing sport at school, give up sport when they leave school. The vast majority, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the statistics will be much different in South Africa, where there is so much emphasis and excitement placed on school sport. So it's got to be healthy and it's necessary. But we must not become victims of competing disorder. We must eat and compete well to avoid competing disorders. So that's, I can finish there. I don't know from that point before I move on to another slide, but I don't know if there's anything there that anyone wants to pick up on, challenge me on. I'm not the be all and end all. I'd love to be challenged and have a discussion if you want. If not, we'll move on. But any comments, I'll take happily at this stage.
Tim, there was a question in the chat from Zulani who says you mentioned the reasons for playing sport. What would you advise our reasons be? And then he says I might have missed it. So if you could just for him,
yeah,
just allude to
I
that.
often say there are 5 reasons. One, and the 5 F's. For fun, that's why they should be having, it should be fun. And too often it is so serious. And I see under 13 teams going onto the field white with fear, and because they know they've got to win because their dad has bet on the game or because of whatever, and they're not really enjoying it. And then we know that we have our big match against our rivals next week, so we need more practices. Do they want it? They've got to do it. But the first reason, it should be for fun. The second is obviously for fitness. That's the second F, and there's a huge value in that. And the Bible speaks about physical training is of value. And yeah, they need that for many, many reasons. And that's why our Ministry of Education here challenged us. And in fact, they are still saying we're not supposed to play sport. But they asked us why we're doing it. And we said, well, one reason is the physical fitness will help them cope with physical illness, cope with mental illness, and apart from the fact that they're not going to get COVID out of the field. But it's for their fitness, which helps their mental fitness. It has huge value. That's why I always say to schools, we continue to do sport during exams because they need to be fit. And all it needs is, okay, they may need to sacrifice a bit of their social media time. And I say that from the perspective that when I was at university, leading up to my finals, which are the big final exams, 9 3-hour papers or whatever, for the 15 weeks beforehand, I was training 2 hours every day and all weekend, all day Saturday, all day Sunday for our national squad, because 2 days after my final exam, we had an international tournament. People said, you're mad. And I said, no, I'm not mad, apart from the fact that I wanted to do the sport. But that helped me keep going through the exams. It took my mind off the exams for a little while and the studying, so I could go back fresh. And B, it would enable me to keep fit and kept my mental fitness. And you saw some of my colleagues at the university really struggling with exhaustion by the end of the exams because they hadn't done any fitness. So I would always say, I would think that we should, the reason we do sport is for fitness, and that counts during exams even. They can still do it. So fun, fitness, for friendship. It's actually a wonderful opportunity for them to come across not just people in their own school, but others. But again, one of my sad things is that coaches are saying on the bus when they're going there, I want you to start thinking about the game now. And when you get off the bus, you're focusing, and then you go and train. So you don't meet the opposition beforehand. And then afterwards, there's the team huddle for no reason. I believe that should be left to the next training session because they're not interested at all. And they're only embarrassed by being kept out on the field, but that's another matter. But actually, it's a wonderful opportunity for them to get alongside other folk from other schools, other situations, and to develop friendships in that way. You meet, you create wonderful friends through sport. And as any of you who played sport will testify strongly. So for fun, for fitness, for friends, forever is the other one. That's what we should be doing it. You and I and every other one should still be doing sport. Even as we're coaching it, we should be doing some sort of sport, not professionally, not necessarily competitively, but we can do sport and should be doing sport for those reasons we already mentioned. And the last one is, and I'm an English teacher, so let me offer this. It's an F, but it's a hard F, and that's a V, and that's values. And we'll come on to that. That's why we are doing sport at school, is to teach values. And John Wooden, the American famous basketball coach, who's written a lot of things, particularly Pyramids of Success, is very strong on that, and absolutely right. So it's, I would say those are the 5 reasons not to win. If you win, fine, but that's not the main reason.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Zolani, I think that answers your question, eh?
Yes,
Awesome.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll move on, and I'll try and share another one now, if I may, and hopefully you'll be able to see this as well. Seeing that? Good. Okay, so we want to talk about winning and losing. My question here, I don't know if you can see that picture, but if you can see it, my question here, who played in that match? And I realize that probably for many of you, it's before your time, but you might not be recognizing it. But just for the record, in that 1970 World Cup, that was at the end of the Brazil versus England match, quarterfinal World Cup. That's opposing players with each other. Nowadays, I think you tend to see them shouting, screaming on the ground in tears, whatever. But that might be the first question. I'm going to follow. Yeah, but who won? Can you tell from that picture who won? And in some ways, I think, no, you can't. But I'll tell you who won. Soccer did, because of that. If you really want to know, Brazil did. And the only reason I do it as a Scotsman is that to show that England lose, but that's another matter as well. But we talk about who won. Actually, soccer won that day because of that, the way they responded at the end, I would say. But the next question really might well be that I would say more importantly is, who cares? Who cares who won 50 years ago? That's history. But equally, who cares who won the match last week or last season or 3 seasons ago? I'm struggling to remember the results of some of the matches I played in, because at the end of the day, who cares? The fact that you had the grace to mention I had the privilege of playing for my country, but that was 30, 40 years ago. What's it got to do with now? Am I still putting it out there saying, yo, I play for my country? But who really cares? The difference between winning and losing. At the end of the day, really, who cares? But let's look at it. Some will say, well, it's not my sport. And forgive me, South Africans, if your passion is on the oval ball, you'd say, like alluding to, it's not my time, not my country. So who cares? Yeah, even more reason to say who cares. But sport is worldwide, and it has wonderful opportunities. We do live in a competitive world, and therefore, yes, children must learn to win. That's in one way why we do competition, not just we've alluded to the fact as to why we do sport at school. So why do we do competitive sport, fixtures, matches against other schools? Because they need to learn how to win in different ways for different reasons. Because, lessons from winning can help. I don't know if you can see that, and I'm not going to go through it all. It's a lovely, fun thing about marriage and relationships. I better not let my wife see this. But it's that sort of feeling that actually the male, you can't win. You just feel, whatever I do is not going to win. I'm never going to satisfy her. And in some ways, that is a valuable lesson in life. And you can't win everything. And in fact, one person wins, the others don't. One team wins the league, 15, 18, 19, others don't. One person wins the 100-meter race, 7 other people don't. In fact, the 48 other people who entered in the qualifying rounds, they didn't. And in fact, the 20 billion people on the earth who never were in that race at all also didn't win. So that the reality is only one can win. There's a problem. We can't win everything. And that is the problem, I think, that we do, because we are pushing the competitiveness towards our youngsters, that they take it upon themselves, that they feel that they have got to win in everything, whether it's driving on the roads. I don't know what your drivers are like in South Africa, but the Zimbabweans, they will do anything to get to the front of the queue. They will overtake on blind rises. They will push past people. They will demand, they've got to win. And it's that compulsion. We have to win. And it even goes into marriages. I've got to win the argument. I've got to win the this matter where there's a disagreement. No, you don't. But so we're not teaching them correctly as to how to win. And also we're not teaching that winning isn't everything. And I know people come up with people who say there are winning isn't everything are losers themselves and all those sorts of things. But it's I would disagree. I won't go into that. But I don't know if you saw recognize that wonderful film a while back, Cool Runnings. One of the lines it says there, which is worth us understanding, a gold medal is a wonderful thing. If you remember, the coach was telling them, the coach who had won a gold medal, but had been found out and banned for cheating. But he was saying, yes, a gold medal is a wonderful thing, but if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. And there again, this whole sense, if you're not enough without winning, you never will be enough with winning. So again, there's a perspective that we don't always, by pushing this winning, you'll never be enough. If winning is going to give you the only fulfillment, now there's a biblical thing again, because gold medal winning, when it becomes your God, then that's taking you away from the only true God. It becomes sport, becomes an idol where you have to win. And your whole life depends on that, which is never going to satisfy you. So there's the element of that. But we have to learn to lose as well as to win, for the reason that more people lose than they do to win. I mentioned that. Everyone will lose sometime. And we tell people to win, but not everyone can win. So everyone will lose sometime. And therefore, we need to be developing that. The other problem is we don't like to lose. Okay, so we need to learn how to lose. We'll come on that a moment. We've never learned to lose. And I wonder whether you, in your own sport experience, ever had anyone teach you how to lose, how to handle defeat. You don't go out to teach people deliberately to lose, but you have to teach them how to handle defeat, failure, loss. But the problem is also we're not prepared to lose. And again, it's one of my contentions that the coaches are not, I call them the PlayStation coaches. I don't know if you are one of those, but as PlayStation, you have the controls in your hand and you're controlling what is happening up on the screen. So the coaches who are shouting from the touchline all the way through the match they're playing the game, not the children. When they're shouting, get back, mark, move forward, pass left, whatever, the coach should be silent. But the reason they're not prepared to be silent is because they're not prepared to lose, because they're embarrassed about their reputation. But actually, the children need to learn. And the coach telling them what to do is they're not listening to you anyway. And B, they're not learning fully by being told what to do. They need to work it out for themselves. And just as the 5 C's of 21st century learning, which teachers use, the critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, and character, so you as coaches should be using those things. And critical thinking is for you to ask the questions, so why are we losing? Why did we let that goal in? What are we going to do about it? How can we avoid that happening? But we're there to ask questions, not to give them the answers. And I would always say this, a fixture, a match is an examination. Your training sessions are the classes. And as far as I'm aware, I haven't come across a school where in the exam hall, the teachers stand at the side of the hall and shout, the answer to number 6 is 3, write it down. They're on their own in an exam. And you as a teacher will learn what needs to be done. So we are, but the reason might well be that we are not prepared to lose because of we're embarrassed about our reputation. We have it, we're in it to win it. We choose it to lose it is the other way, but whatever it might be, but that's the sort of feeling we're in it to win it. Yeah, you go out to win the match, but you need to learn how to lose. And are we teaching that? I don't know if you recognize that film again. It seems that I've been referred to everything but The Knight's Tale. And the character there was so determined in the medieval sport of jousting that he had to win his beautiful lady's love. And he thought, that's the way I'm going to win her. If I can show that I win, she'll love me back. And he was hugely disappointed to say, well, if you love me, then lose. Hey, if you love me, lose. And he says, losing proves nothing. That's his response to her. But actually winning proves nothing. But what she said was wrong. Losing is a much keener test of your love. Are you prepared to sacrifice losing for my love? Or are you just wanting to win for your sake? And it throws into that whole aspect for coaches and for children. Why are you so content in winning? It's not proving anything. And actually, the losing is a better test of your character. So there is the reason children must learn to lose. They're not losers. The L stands for not for loser, but for learner. That's what you see on the car. It's no losers, it's learner. And that's been said many times. But often people don't like to talk about the F word. That word. No. That's not the F word. That's the F word. The fail. We don't like to talk about failure. I don't hear heads ever speaking about how many pupils fail their exams. We just go about how many got A's and B's or whatever. We don't. We publish the results that we win, but then it's very silent when we don't. We don't like to talk about it, and not many like to use it, and many treat it lightly, just as they treat the F word very lightly as well. But it needs to be something. Again, you'll recognize that only too well. And in one of the biographies of Hansi Cronje, it was said this: he never lost a rugby match in his 6 years at school. I don't know if he was at any of your schools. But actually, an interesting thing was that a commentator, when he read that he'd never lost a rugby match in 6 years at school, he said it might have helped him if he had. In terms of what happened, in terms of his whole compulsion to win, be it with match fixing or whatever, it might have helped him if he had. And we need to do that. So how are you going to teach people how to learn to lose? And in some ways, very easy. I don't know if you recognize that. It's not a world famous sports star, as you probably imagine from the thing, but it's actually Rudyard Kipling, who wrote one of his poems, is the wonderful poem If. But in it, it has the line which you may well have come across: if you can meet with triumph and disaster. I don't know if you can finish that yourselves, if you know that. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors the same. If you can meet with winning and losing, success and failure, triumph and disaster, those are the same meanings. And treat those two impostors the same. That's the secret of how to lose. You lose in the same way that you win. The key word, though, that and that's one obvious analogy or lesson to take from those lines, that we must learn to win, and just as well the way we learn to lose. Like with Pele and Bobby Moore in that photo of the 1970 World Cup. They learned to meet with triumph and disaster in the same way. But the key word there is a word that I'll highlight there, that word, imposters. Triumph and disaster, success and failure are imposters. Imposter means they're just labels. They're not the real thing. They're not important. But then it goes on, what is more, you'll be a man, my son. And what I would emphasize too is, it doesn't say you'll be a success, my son. You'll be a man. Again, that aspect of better person makes a better player. So it's one way we can say is we learn to lose by treating it the same way that we win. So there's a question: do we win in the same way that we lose? We need to the same way they learn to win. And there are some ways that I would suggest those are the characteristics that we should have, whether we win or whether we lose, having all of those qualities. And by the way, Philip, I'll send you these PowerPoints if you want as a backing for this, in case anyone is interested. But do we win with dignity, or do we lose with dignity? Do we win with respect? Do we win and lose with humility? I would suggest those are challenges that we would do well. The real way, if we're educating children, the school of sport, teaching, educating through sport, then one way we are learning to accept success and failure, winning and losing, in exactly the same way, with a calmness, with a gratitude even, because of the lessons that we can learn. We could spend a lot of time on that, but they must learn to win and to lose. And here's Paul saying this, with reference to with money, perhaps, but as you see he speaks about, I've learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, to lose. I know how to abound, win. I've learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. We need to learn, and we need to teach children how to learn to be happy, to be content, and that's probably different from being happy, to accept whatever situation I'm in. That's a biblical context which applies, he's saying, not just in terms of money, of food or money, but as a life lesson. I've learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I've learned to be happy, content with winning and losing. You'll know that verse, which goes on, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And let's remember that. Christ is there on the sports field with them, and he is watching how you and I are doing it, and how our children are learning. Here's your friend and the great man, and his attitude. You'll remember perhaps one of his sayings about winning and losing was, I never lose. I only win or I learn. And yeah, that's good. But actually, you may turn me off right now, but I have the temerity to say that he's wrong. And how dare anyone say that Mandela was wrong? But actually, I agree with him wholeheartedly in one sense. But actually, they have to, there's a problem because they have to learn when they win. By him saying, I never lose, I only win or I learn, it's implying that I don't learn when I win. And as an example of that, how many times do you have your holy huddle on the pitch, which again, I stress shouldn't happen after the game, but how often do you have it when you win? No, you're too busy running around. Whoa, look at us. We won, we won, we won. We don't think, okay, so we don't ask our children, why did you win? Well, we were lucky. Yeah, the ref didn't see that. Oh, we put things into practice you taught us. Why did we win? But we must learn whether we are winning or losing is the point. And not learning that we are a great superstar just because we won or anything like that, but we're learning through these experiences. So at the end of the season, you might well say, well, we've had a great season. And I might say, well, okay, on what basis will you say it's a great season? Many would say, well, we're undefeated. We've got a much bigger ratio of results. We've got these people in our provincial teams, national teams. We've had a great season. We'll probably refer to our results. But here's another way that we could perhaps define that. We've had a great season. We've learned so much from the losing or the winning. That to we will be a great season. If you have been undefeated and have and learned nothing, then it's a dreadful season. And it's not just about a matter of learning skills, the sporting skills, but the life skills and values. And I wonder, are you only going to do half the curriculum? A team that says, a school that says that we've got this team was undefeated, it's saying we're only doing half the curriculum. It's proudly boasting, and I dare you to say that to any parent when they're talking about the academic curriculum. No, it's okay, we're only doing half the curriculum. You do all the curriculum, please. Well, okay, use that as to remind them, okay, well, don't pay so much attention to the results, to our sporting results. Again, what I underline is we have to educate not just our pupils, but our parents as to why we're doing sport at school. They are the ones that the parents are more concerned. And I often will say we need to tell the parents, we're not doing fixtures for the parents' entertainment, it's for the children's education. You can come along and watch, that's fine, but it's actually not for your entertainment or for your reputation or the school's reputation. It's actually for the children's education. It is sport at school, and school is about learning, and everything there is about learning. So we've had a great season. I would say it's been great because we learned a lot. If we haven't learned anything, it's been a poor season. You might recognize that gentleman, and I say the problem, and you might recognize the problem. And often I say that, who is it? And they'll say Lance Armstrong, and you'll say, right. And why do you know him? And some will say because he won the Tour de France 7 times in a row, and others will say because he cheated. Some will remember him for success, others will remember him for failure. But even before he was discovered as to be a cheat, a drugs cheat, he made this interesting statement. The problem is that we over-celebrate when we win and we overreact when we lose. And I think that's exactly right. We over-celebrate when we win and we overreact when we lose. Instead of, we should react in the same way as we've heard before. But here's another person, and I came across this morning on LinkedIn about someone who was showing a video, I don't know if you've seen him, of your man Heineke Meyer celebrating a Springbok win. And it was saying that we can learn so much from this man and his passion and his delight in winning, where he was pumping the air and doing everything else. But he might say, well, actually, what lessons is he teaching? And when you are celebrating so emotionally and powerfully in front of others who've just lost, are we taking into consideration what it says in Matthew 7:12? Do to others as you would have them do to you. When we win and we scream and jump around in victory or whatever, are we actually considering how the others feel? They're not happy. And as Christians, we should be doing to others as you would have them do to you. So there's that one aspect of it that we should be considering. Another biblical verse might be, physical training has some value, but godliness is of value in every way. Yeah, it's great to win, but godliness is of much greater value, and how we react. And again, I would say, if we have a great lesson that has gone really well, or a great sports coaching session, do we run into the staff room, skid along the ground on our knees and scream at the top of our voice, come on? No, that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. So why do we have our youngsters celebrating in such a way? And we're not stopping them from celebrating. And some will say, well, it's good to celebrate, but yeah, but that's your job. And very often the most dangerous time is when you are celebrating a win, because your mind is off the goal. And I sometimes think folks spend more time working on their celebrations than on the next move or whatever. But that's what well done. You scored a goal. You scored a try. That's great. That's what you're supposed to do. Now go and do it again. Rather than thinking I'm the world's hero because I've done it. Is that humility? When the children are running around and saying, pointing at the name on their back, saying, look at me, aren't I great? Arms aloft, screaming and shouting. And are we doing the same when we are sort of saying to our parents or our colleagues, yeah, we won. Yeah, you won. Well done. Go and do it again. Teach them the lessons. So again, no disrespect to him. Yes, he has passion. And yes, we do believe in our sport. But we need to think how others are reacting as well, I would say, when we do win. Maybe you can scream and shout if you are so excited and passionate afterwards when you get home, and when there's no one really there to be affected. That may be controversial. You may want to discuss it. But at the end of the day, it's a game. That's all it is. It's a game. In terms of life and death, it's a game. It's not all that important. You won. You're in the final. Well played. But you know what? We need to see things in perspective. Godliness, spirituality is far more important than worldliness. And what's more, it's a lesson. That's what is more important. It's a lesson. What lessons are children learning from our sporting sessions? Winning and losing are two sides of the same coin. And what you come across is both sides are the same value. It's still a round coin or whatever it is whether whichever side it lands. And winning and losing is just the same. And we need to recognize that. Our value, the value of our children, and here is perhaps the most important thing, the value of our children is not determined by whether they win or lose. They are valuable, full stop, in God's eyes. And we must get away from that teaching that subconsciously, in terms of saying to them that you're only somebody, if you want my love, then you better win. They both have the same value, and we need to understand that. So I would say to us as coaches, don't be afraid to lose. And often ask, so what is stopping you from losing? Are you worried about, is it your pride, the prize, you can get the prize, or your CV, what it looks like on your CV? What's stopping you from losing? If they are learning, and they might have had a great season by growing, by learning, by improving. That's a great season, but they may have still lost all the matches. But so are we just saying it's all about the winning and what's stopping you? Mandela again, not matter whether you fail or not, that counts, but what we do when we do fail. That is the key. And it's not a matter whether we win or not. It's what we do when we do win. So it comes to that point about what is success. And we're nearly wrapping this up. It's different things to different people. Second place in the Olympic final, 100 meters. Success or failure? To the gentleman on the left, it would have been a failure. World record holder, undefeated for 3 Olympic Games, it would have been a failure. But for you and me, I'll take it. But how can the same thing be 2 extremes? Well, it's because it's the 2 sides of one coin. It doesn't matter. That's not success. Second place is not a matter of success or failure. You can come across, I alluded to John Wooden earlier, that's his pyramid of success, the qualities that you need, the foundation at the bottom, and there's a lot of value in that. And success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. That's a valuable lesson. That's a biblical lesson as well. There's much truth that we could use in that regard. In my book on failure, I'm instead of a pyramid of success, I talk about a pile of failure, and I have the same sort of pyramid. I won't go through all of that, but there are qualities that we need for those different aspects. But there's a point I just want to make very clear. Success is not biblical. You will not find the word success in the New Testament. You will find it 33 times in the Old Testament. Some of those times are where it talks about is the word successor. So that's not really about success. Some of those times it's when this king succeeded that king. So that's not really about success. Success is not biblical. Have you ever heard Jesus speak about success? Encouraging people to be successful? Please tell me if you have. But that word is not a biblical word. It's very much a modern world. And you're reading everybody who's saying that we must be successful. But what I do, and a point I make out in the book, Go For It, is God-given. In other words, it's by grace. If we do succeed, it is by grace. That God gave Joseph success. That's what it says in the Old Testament. God gave David success. God gave them success. They succeeded because God was with them. It was all God-given. And even if we don't believe that, understand, well, who gave them those talents to do well? Well, it was God. It's God-given, not man-achieved. So yes, we push folk to do the best that they can, but we're not all called to be, in fact, none of us are called to be successful. If we are successful, it is God-given. And I realized that in my own life with the privilege I had to play for my country. That was purely of God, without any question. And I won't go into it now, but if ever you want to know, I'm happy to share it. It was so ridiculous that it has to be of God and nothing else. So I would stress that it's not. So if we're pushing for success, though, we must teach youngsters how to handle success. Because success is potentially very dangerous. And most folk, if they are pushed, children to succeed, but when they do succeed, it goes to their head and they tumble, because success leads to failure very often. You think of these sports superstars, they got the fame, they got the fortune, they go to the drugs, they take it easy, they struggle. We must teach youngsters equally how to handle failure, because it's going to happen to all of us, but we need to teach them. And I think if we are not teaching youngsters how to handle success, then we are setting them up for disaster. And that we need to take that very, very carefully. Because they will start thinking themselves, they'll become incredibly arrogant, they'll become lazy, they'll become whatever it might be if they're not taught how to handle that success. I don't know if you know that gentleman there. Some of you might know Andy Cook, who was latterly head up in the Polokwane region. But he was an interesting guy. I knew him well from time in South Africa. And he was head boy at Hilton College. He was captain of the first 15 rugby team. Oh, great ones. Bow down to the rugby team and the captains. He went to university. Everything went so easily. He went to university. He was the top student. He was given position to responsibility. Everything he did, it worked brilliantly. He went now on to teach at Michael House. He became the youngest ever housemaster at Michael House. He thrived at that. He did brilliantly at it. At the end of his tenure as housemaster, he took on the role of being marketing manager for Michael House. And in 6 months, he had a nervous breakdown. And he said this to me: "Tim, no one ever taught me how to fail." They actually didn't need to teach him how to succeed. That came so naturally. But he said, "No one ever taught me how to fail." And there's a question for us. How many people have we taught how to fail? And how many people have we taught how to succeed? So we are in the school of sport. It's not simply skills, but values that we should be teaching. It's not simply to win, but it's to learn. And we need to educate pupils and parents why we do that. That's really summing up what we've been saying so far. But the last thing I simply want to touch on is, well, what do we reward? Because it links with the idea of success. We reward success. But if success is not biblical, then why are we rewarding success? What we tend to reward are those sort of things. Most valuable player, top scorer, best player. But again, I would say those are totally wrong. And I'm glad you're on silent, because you'll probably be spluttering and gasping or whatever. In a team sport, you're trying to develop teamwork. And how are you developing a team when you're rewarding one person, the top scorer? Well, the goalkeeper is never going to win that. So what's the hope of him? Why are you rewarding that person? And what's more, you get a youngster who doesn't quite have it in their head, and they'll go all out to win that top scorer award. So they will shoot when they should pass to someone who's in a better position and maybe waste the chance just because he wants the glory. And the best player won. And how's that judged? In terms of ability or in terms of character? Achievement as opposed to attitude. Why do we need to reward the best player? Aren't we supposed to reward everyone? I would hold out to you the parable of the talents, Matthew 25. The person who got 5 talents, the person who got 2 talents, both received the same praise and glory. And note, it wasn't good and successful servant, it was good and faithful servant. They were faithful in what they had. The guy who got 2 more, he only had 2 to start with. The guy who had 5 and got 5 more, he had 5 to start with. So actually they both had 100% improvement. So they were both rewarded for what they had achieved. But in schools, we would say the guy who's got 5 goals is better than the guy with 2 goals. Or the guy who does this is better than that one. But we're saying, the reward is, well done, good and faithful servant. So we should be praising any and every player that has been faithful, rather than the best player. I would say your trophy should be faithful players and reward those who did do that. You might reward them in different ways, but you are rewarding not just in terms of because they played for this team or achieved those achievements, but as well done, good and faithful servant is the recommendation. Elsewhere in the story, Jesus spoke about where the woman was wiping Jesus's feet with expensive oil. And the cynics were complaining, what is she doing? That could be better used. But the 5 words, Jesus said, she did what she could. And I just add, with what she had. If you think about the parable or the incident, not the parable, the incident when Jesus said to his disciples, hey guys, come, look at this in the marketplace. And the one guy bringing out his wallet and showing off all the massive amounts of money and making a big show of handing it over. And he said, check this out, guys. This woman comes in with 2 coins. And she hands in and he says, who did more? Who deserves more praise? Who deserves the biggest reward? The lady with 2 coins. It wasn't the guy who flashed out everything. She did what she could. So are we rewarding any and every player, even in the 3rd, the 4th teams? Not just those in the 1st team, but those who did what they could with what they had. That is what we should be recognizing, their commitment, their attitude, their aptitude, rather than their achievement. And there's a lovely verse there in 1 Samuel 26, where Saul, when David spared his life, Saul recognized that, and he says, well, the Lord rewards every man for his righteousness and his faithfulness. Faithfulness again. Being faithful means do what you can with what you have, is my simple definition of it. The Lord will reward every man, every coach. He will reward you for your righteousness and your faithfulness, not for your winning ratio, for what you've done with those kids. You may, the schools spend so much money now on scholarships to bring in the best players, to say we're the best, but actually that's not the best coach. The best coach is bringing out talent of all the children and not leaving some on the sideline when you're focusing on the 1st team or the main players. The Lord will reward you. And he will reward, we need to teach, he will reward the children that they have played in the right way and they have been faithful. That is what I believe we should be rewarding. And again, another wonderful film, Chariots of Fire. It had one of the characters, that lovely story about a Scotsman, I just mentioned that in passing, who achieved Olympic gold in the 1924 Olympics, not when I was around, I hasten to add. But his American competitor recognized that when Little refused to run on the Sunday because of his Christian principles, so he entered the 400 meters, not at his race, and the other athlete went up to him at the beginning and handed him a note on which this was written, he who honors me, says the Lord, I will surely honor. Our task is to honor God in the way we teach sport, the way we handle sports teams. And God will honor us as a result of that. All I'd simply underline then, what about whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord, not for man. That's what we're to do. All that we're doing, we're going to work heartily with every bit of our energy in teaching sport, in coaching sport. Yes, please. We don't take it casually. We work heartily, but as for the Lord, not for man. And verse 17 speaks about do it in the name of Christ. That's why we're doing it. For the glory of the Lord, not for our glory, not for our school's glory. And we need to educate people about that, whether it's the parents, the pupils, the boards, even our heads maybe, that actually that's why we're doing sport. And I'll tell you a little story. I'll wipe that one off for a moment. When I eventually did play, was called up for the first time to the national team, I had gone from playing in the 6th division of our national league for my university up to being called up into the national squad via the Scottish universities and the Scottish under-21 in 8 months. I've gone from nothing to the national squad purely of God, the way it happened. But then I was called into we went away for 2 internationals down in Wales. And the coach said to me before the first match, if we're winning 2-0 with 20 minutes to go, I'll put you on. And so I said, okay, well, thank you very much. I'll be ready. And then sort of made a look up to God and say, did you catch that? Can we synchronize our watches? 20 minutes to go, 2-0, please. And 20 minutes to go, we were leading 1-0 and we were awarded a penalty flick. And so thank you, Lord. So I started mentally preparing myself again to go on. But the guy I was replacing went up to take it and he missed it. Well, you don't miss penalties. And he missed it. And we didn't score another goal and I didn't get on. And I was thinking, hey, wait a minute. Come on, God, didn't you read the script? What about this fairy tale rise from nothing that I'm supposed to be playing today? And so inwardly, I was quite miffed. We had the team dinner, the dinners for both teams, and then I went out to my room and I got out my daily reading notes for the evening, and that was the verse for that day. Do you seek great things for yourself? Seek them not. Well, God could not have timed it better, could he? In terms of, and the people who put that verse down for that night, that day, that evening, wouldn't have known how much God was speaking to me through that. We're not doing this for ourselves. I had to learn, and the next day we played the second match. I didn't get on then. I'd said to the Lord by then, I'd repented and said, I'm sorry. If I don't get on tomorrow, that's fine. I didn't get on. I had to wait another 6 months before I played the international. But are we seeking all these successes for ourselves? God says, seek them not. We're told, Paul says in Philippians, do nothing out of selfish ambition, but in humility count others more significant, even those that you've beaten. We're not doing it for selfish ambition. Is that why I'm coaching sports? So I can win, have a great CV? Well, answer that verse if you can. You may well be able to. Other verses. I came across this, and there's one verse in lower. If you're going to be competitive, if it is, and many of us are competitive by nature, then Paul says this, outdo one another in showing honor. So there you go. There's the challenge. Rather than beat others, outdo them in showing honor. And by the way, it says in Proverbs 15, humility comes before honor. If you want honor, then we've got to learn humility. Humility, you learn that a lot by losing. And maybe that's why your team is losing, because you need to learn humility. But we need humility when we do win. And the danger of winning is that we lose that humility. Humility comes before honor. And if we're going to honor God, if we want him to honor us, we've got to honor him. Well, humility comes before honor. And Paul says in 1 Corinthians 9, it speaks about, I don't run aimlessly. And he said, they do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Just remember that, where we're not out for earthly honors. Yeah, it's very special to achieve that, but actually we're in the business of training youngsters for eternity. We're in the business of bringing them to Christ, to finding new life in him, real life. And we don't run aimlessly. Yeah, we've got to be very serious in how we're doing it. We're doing it with all our heart. But we do it recognizing the right things, that it's the spiritual. And I simply finish with this. Another simple story that I had. Soon after I played my first match for Scotland, we played West Germany, who were one of the top countries in the world at hockey at that time. And we marched out. I don't know if you ever heard the German national anthem, but we had the national anthems before the match, and the German national anthem, I suddenly clicked, oh, I recognize that tune. And it may be because you hear it so often at the Olympics. But then I realized, no, it's the tune that one of my favorite hymns uses. And that hymn is Glorious Things of Thee Are Spoken. And again, maybe some of you may be so young that you're not aware of what hymns are or whatever, but it's a wonderful hymn by Charles Wesley. Glorious things of thee are spoken, Zion, city of our God. But it suddenly, when I realized that, and then I started singing it, not the German national anthem, and not aloud, I hasten to add, but to myself, I started singing the fourth verse of that hymn. Before, standing there before this big international against one of the top teams in the world, these are the words: Savior, since of Zion's city, I through grace, a member am, and through grace, I'm a member of this team. Let the world deride or pity about me being a Christian. I will glory in your name. Fading are the worldlings' vain pleasure, the world's vain pleasures, all their boasted pomp and show, all this boasted pomp and show of sport. Solid joys and lasting treasures, none but Zion's children know. And it's just as well I sang that because we lost 9-1, but that's another matter. And it was a good reminder that, not all things are important. Some things are, it's transitory, it's transient. I believe that's why we're doing sport as Christians. We've got that added incentive. They need to win and to lose. They need to learn how to handle defeat and victory. We have got so much that we need to teach them. I know I've gone over time. My sincere apologies. But if you want questions, I'm still available, but you may want to get onto your own work again.
Tim, thank you so much. I just love that you speak so much about the heart of what we do and the heart of sport. Ultimately, I think as Christian schools, that's what we're about. It's not teaching them just 2 + 2, it's teaching them a good work ethic in math, as an example. And like you said, with sport, it is really the school of sport. And so I really appreciate what you shared with us this morning. I got a message as well on WhatsApp just from one of the guys excusing himself. He had to go. I don't know if there's any questions from the guys still online. Otherwise, we will also let you get back to your work. We know you are a busy man, so we are very, very grateful for your time this morning.
It's a real privilege.
I think that's it, Tim. Thank you so much. Tim, God bless, all the best. Again, like I said, we appreciate you and we appreciate your heart for the kingdom.
Well, I'm excited that there are folk like yourselves, all these folk here, who are excited by the Lord and wants to use sports to bring them. So I will pray for you that you continue to do that and to find joy in that, and wish you well in all your endeavors. And more than happy to be in touch again if you so wish to chat things through further.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Tim.
it.
Thanks, Philip.
Great. Thanks, Alan.
Pleasure.
God bless everybody. Have a great day. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Take care. Keep strong.
You too.